The sky
We
had
need to move
forgotten how to
quickly.
be blue.
They're not far
Ash
behind
hung
us.
like lazy
I know, but we
snow,
can't risk going without a
drifting
plan.
through the broken skyline of what used to be downtown Chicago. The world hadn't ended all at once. It had fizzled out, embarrassed, like a joke that went on too long. Terran Keel adjusted the cracked lens of his visor and muttered, "If the planet's gonna die, it could at least stop shedding dandruff on me." The visor clicked, zoomed, and highlighted a movement in the dust. A figure, tall, slender, with a faint cobalt shimmer that caught what was left of the sun. Great. Another scavenger. Or worse, an alien tourist who'd come to Earth for the apocalypse and stayed for the irony. She stepped closer. The ground quivered beneath his boots, a tiny tremor that made his heart lurch. "Quick!" she said, voice like static through silk. "Before I lose it!" Terran blinked. "Lose what? Your sense of direction, your patience, or your spaceship?" "My temper," she said flatly, hands on hips. And those hands were not quite human. Too many joints, graceful and wrong in a way that was strangely magnetic. He realized two things at once. She wasn't armed, she was breathtakingly otherworldly, and that was trouble. They stood in awkward silence for a moment, the kind that usually precedes either a fight or very bad. Flirting. Terran broke it first. "You're not from around here." She tilted her head. "And you are?" "Born 2 blocks that way. Died a little every year since." The alien's eyes flicked across him like a scanner. "You're leaking sarcasm." "It's the only thing I've got left that's renewable." She cracked the faintest smirk, and it hit him harder than the tremor. Her name, she said, was Lyra Vale, of the Hadron Collective. Explorers? Not conquerors, allegedly. Her ship had malfunctioned when Earth's magnetic crust belched out another solar hiccup. She needed a crystalline stabilizer, whatever that meant. Or she'd be stranded with the rest of humanity's leftovers. Terran offered to help find it, partly because he wanted to, partly because he couldn't stand another day of talking to sand and vending machines. They set off through the ruins. Side by side, the city a playground of collapsed glass and bad memories. "So," he said, kicking a can that once held something labeled premium oxygenated water, "how's interstellar travel treating you?" Lyra's expression didn't change. "We jump through compressed space-time folds powered by quantum spin cores. Neat. I once owned a blender. That sounds primitive. It made margaritas. Saved lives." A small puff of laughter escaped her. The humor became their currency. His cynicism traded for her confusion, her logic sparring with his sarcasm. He found himself watching the way she studied everything. A fallen streetlight, a crushed car, the skeleton of a bus. "Humans built so much," she said softly, then stopped maintaining any of it. "Yeah, maintenance isn't sexy." "Destruction is. You find destruction sexy?" Terran hesitated. "When it's wearing a cobalt shimmer and calling me out on it? Maybe." She glanced at him unamused. But the corners of her mouth betrayed her. They reached the old power station by dusk. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of radioactive orange. Terran scavenged through debris while Lyra scanned with her palm device, which hummed like a cat that had swallowed a reactor. "Your species hides its valuables underground," she said, "because we're paranoid. Or smart. Depends who's writing history." "Do you trust me?" she asked suddenly. He looked up from the pile of scrap. "You're the only one around who isn't trying to eat me or sell me vitamins." "So sure, relatively." She arched a brow ridge. "Relatively?" "Yeah, you know. Trust, but keep one hand near the emergency eject button." Her voice lowered. "If I wanted to harm you, you'd already be—" She paused, searching for the phrase. "A decorative stain," Terran grinned. "Romantic." Lyra rolled her eyes, or maybe that was how her species blinked. They finally found what she was looking for. A fractured cylinder glowing faintly blue under a collapsed stairwell. Lyra knelt, her movements efficient, almost ceremonial. "Hold this," she said, handing him a power cell the size of a brick. "Sure thing, Captain Sparkles. It's volatile." He froze. "As in, explodes volatile or emotional volatile?" "Yes," he muttered. "Fantastic. My dating life all over again?" She didn't get the joke, but the sound she made, a tiny, involuntary hum, told him she might be learning. While she worked, he found himself rambling, a habit born of too much silence. "You know," he said, "the last woman who told me she needed me to hold something ended up throwing it at me." Lyra didn't look up. "Perhaps you deserved it, definitely. But in my defense, I was right. Humans have a strange relationship with being right. Yeah, we treat it like foreplay." She blinked. "Foreplay? Pre-battle synchronization." Her lips parted. Amusement, maybe curiosity. "That sounds inefficient." "Only if you rush it." The hum of her device faltered. She'd almost laughed again. When night fell, they made camp near a crumbling overpass. Taryn scavenged half-melted cans, and Lyra used her device to reheat them, radiating warmth through the air. He leaned back, watching the alien light play across her features. "You sure you're not here to study us? Document our tragic stupidity?" Lyra considered. "We catalog species, but your kind deleted itself faster than we could finish the report." "Ouch." "Still," she added, "I find the remnants compelling." "Compelling. That's alien for cute, right? More like fascinatingly flawed. I'll take it. It's better than most of my exes managed." A distant boom echoed, the sound of some tower finally giving up on standing. Dust rained down like gray confetti. Lyra looked toward the sound, then back at him. "Your planet trembles often. That's just Earth's way of sighing." "She's tired." "Tired of what?" "Us." She didn't argue. Instead, she extended her hand, curious, hesitant. Her fingers were cool, faintly glowing. "May I?" she asked. Taryn blinked. "May you what?" "Understand you." He hesitated, then took her hand. A faint current ran up his arm, not painful, just alive. Memories flickered. Laughter, fire, empty rooms. Lyra gasped and withdrew. "You carry so much noise." "Yeah," he said softly. "That's humanity. We never shut up, even in our heads." Her eyes softened, luminous in the dark. "It's beautiful. Noise is beautiful?" "To me," he chuckled. "Careful, that's how addictions start." Later, as the stars struggled through the haze, they shared silence, comfortable this time. Lyra eventually broke it. "Your people destroyed your world chasing progress. Why do you still search the ruins?" "Because if I stop," Taryn said, staring at the flickering horizon, "then it really is gone." Lyra tilted her head. "And helping me?" "That's just a convenient excuse to talk to someone who isn't a vending machine." She smiled, a small, real one. "You hide loneliness behind humor. And you hide fear behind logic." They looked at each other, the truth hanging there like static between antennae. A windstorm picked up, sharp, metallic, singing through the bones of skyscrapers. Lyra rose, scanning the sky. Magnetic distortion increasing. "We must return to my ship soon." Taryn stood, brushing dust from his jacket. "You mean I'm finally getting off this rock?" "Do I get a window seat?" "Only if you survive liftoff." Optimistic. "I like it." As they packed up, the ground trembled again, stronger this time. Lyra frowned. "That was not natural." Taryn's grin faltered. "You mean apart from the part where the planet's been falling apart for a decade?" "No. Something else moved." The humor drained from both their faces. From the distance came a low growl, not mechanical, not alive, something in between. Taryn muttered, "Every time it gets romantic, the world tries to kill me." Lyra activated her scanner. "It senses the stabilizer's energy." "We must go." "Lead the way, Sparkles." She shot him a glare. "If we survive this, I'll find out what that nickname means." "Promise?" The ground shuddered again, louder. Dust geysered into the air. Taryn looked toward the movement, then at her. "Quick," he said with a crooked grin, "before I lose it." She stepped closer, eyes gleaming. "Then don't lose it." The earth split beneath them, and everything went white. When the light faded, Taryn's first thought was that death had a terrible sense of humor. He'd expected harps, maybe a glowing tunnel. Instead, he was lying face down in something that smelled like fried copper and disappointment. "Still alive?" came Lyra's voice, steady and exasperated. Taryn groaned. Define alive. You're talking. Then, unfortunately, yes. He rolled over, blinking at the dim glow above them. They were in some kind of subterranean cavern. Not natural, not fully artificial either. The walls pulsed with faint veins of blue light, and the air hummed like an old refrigerator that refused to die. Lyra crouched beside him, scanning with her device. We fell through a maintenance conduit. Pre-collapse infrastructure. Translation? We're under the city. Great, Taryn muttered. Always wanted a basement view of the apocalypse, they explored cautiously. Every step echoed like a bad decision. Lyra kept her scanner raised, muttering coordinates. Taryn kept making jokes to fill the silence. You think this place still has Wi-Fi? What is Wi-Fi? Human magic. It gave us access to everything except common sense, she almost smiled. You miss it. The internet? No. Arguing with strangers about pizza toppings? Maybe. Her eyes flickered with amusement. You are strange, Taryn Keel. Coming from a glow-in-the-dark telepath, I'll take that as a compliment. They reached a wide chamber, a forgotten transit hub. Holographic signs flickered weakly, their messages looping nonsense. Please stand behind. Lyra examined a cracked terminal. This technology predates your extinction by decades. Impressive endurance. Like my hangovers, he said, kicking a bit of rubble. Taryn, she called. Come here. He joined her and peered at the screen. A map appeared, glowing faintly, showing a network of underground tunnels, all converging toward a central node marked core. That, Lyra said, is where your world stored its primary energy regulator, he whistled. You're saying the planet has a heart? In a manner of speaking. And it is still beating weakly, so if we reach it, I may stabilize my ship, and possibly your planet's magnetic field. He raised an eyebrow. Save the world and hitch a ride off it? Efficient. She looked at him sideways. You wish to leave? He hesitated. Not sure, but I'd like the option. Then we go. They followed the tunnels for hours. The deeper they went, the stronger the vibrations underfoot. Occasionally, the lights flickered, revealing murals of old advertisements, half-peeled faces of models selling gadgets that had outlived their buyers. Taryn's stomach growled. I miss food that didn't glow. Lyra handed him a small nutrient capsule. This will sustain you for several hours. He sniffed it. It smells like disappointment. It contains all necessary amino compounds. Yeah, but does it contain flavor? You humans rely too much on pleasure. Only because it's the one thing we were good at. She tilted her head. And yet you destroyed your own habitat, see? We were too good at it. Lyra's sigh sounded suspiciously like laughter. The tremors grew worse. Dust rained from the ceiling. Taryn asked, Is it just me or is the planet pouting again? Lyra checked her scanner. The core's containment field is decaying. If it fails, boom? She nodded grimly. A very large boom, figures. The universe finally gives me company worth dying for. She stopped walking. Worth dying for? He smirked. Don't flatter yourself. I'm just bad at timing. But she was looking at him differently now, as if trying to decode a language she didn't know she spoke. They reached a broken elevator shaft. The only way down was through. Lyra anchored a line from her belt, checking the clamps. Hold tight to me. He raised an eyebrow. You sure this isn't some elaborate alien mating ritual? Would you like it to be? He blinked. You joke now? I adapt. Dangerously well, they descended slowly. Sparks glimmered in the dark like fireflies. Halfway down, the cable jerked. Debris rained past. Taryn swore loudly, clinging to her. Your grip is excessive, she said. Gravity and I have a complicated relationship. Her tone softened. I will not let you fall. I've heard that before, he murmured. This time, though, she meant it. They landed safely, more or less, in a chamber filled with humming coils. The air tasted metallic. In the center stood the core, a sphere suspended in magnetic fields pulsing with fading light. Lyra approached reverently. Beautiful, Taryn squinted. Looks like a disco ball with a god complex. She began adjusting her stabilizer. If I align its frequency with the core, I can siphon enough energy to power my ship. But it will destabilize this area, meaning you might want to step back, he grinned. Lady, I've been stepping back from bad ideas my whole life. This one's at least interesting. The device roared to life, streams of blue light swirling between her hands and the core. The floor shook. Taryn shielded his face from the glare. Lyra! He shouted. It's overloading. She didn't answer. Sparks danced across her skin, her outline flickering between solid and translucent. Hey! He rushed forward, grabbing her shoulders. You're not vaporizing on my watch. Her eyes glowed bright as the core itself. You'll be harmed too late. The feedback burst outward, and suddenly they were both thrown backward into darkness. When Taryn opened his eyes, he was lying in the ruins again. But the sky above was different. Not ash gray, a pale, struggling blue. He sat up, disoriented. Either I died and heaven's on a budget or something worked. Beside him, Lyra stirred. Her glow was dimmer but steady. The core stabilized. Partially. He helped her sit up. So apocalypse postponed? For now. Well, he said, that's progress. I'll put it on my resume. Assisted alien in saving planet. Also made excellent sarcastic commentary. She gave him a weary smile. You are insufferable. You say that like it's a compliment? Perhaps it is. They walked toward the horizon, where the first real sunlight in years fought through the haze. Lyra looked around. Your world may recover, given time. Taryn shrugged. So will we, I guess. Or we'll mess it up again. Tradition's hard to break. She studied him for a moment. You hide your hope. Hope's like alcohol, works best in small doses. And yet you help me. He grinned. Maybe I just like glowing women with bad timing. She didn't look away this time. And maybe I like flawed creatures who make me laugh. Careful, he said. That sounded suspiciously like affection. She tilted her head. Is that dear bad? Only if you're planning to leave. Her gaze drifted to the faint glimmer of her ship on the horizon. I am required to report home. Of course you are, he said quietly. But, she added, reports can take time, Taryn smirked. Time's the one thing this planet still has plenty of. Then, she said, stepping closer, perhaps I'll stay. For a while. The ground trembled again, gentle this time, like a heartbeat returning. Taryn laughed softly. You feel that? Yes. Guess Earth approves. They stood together as the light spread. Two survivors. One broken world and a faint promise of something worth the trouble. Lyra looked at him, eyes catching the morning. Quick, she whispered, echoing that first moment. Before I lose it. He smiled. Not this time. And for the first time since the world ended, the sky above them was a color worth remembering. The morning after a semi-successful end of the world is always anticlimactic. No angels, no trumpets, just a sun that looked slightly less miserable and a wind that didn't taste entirely of rust. Taryn stretched, bones protesting like old machinery. Well, he said, either we save the planet or we're hallucinating optimism. Lyra, crouched by a pool of condensation, dipped her fingers into the water. It's clean enough to drink. Great. You bring the survival instincts, I'll bring the sarcasm. She looked up. You never stop talking. It's a defense mechanism. Against what? He shrugged. Silence. Hope. Feelings. Take your pick. Lyra gave him that patient, slightly amused look of someone still deciding whether to dissect or kiss the creature in front of her. They scavenged through the ruins for anything remotely edible. Taryn found a can of peaches that looked older than his childhood, while Lyra collected fragments of alien alloy that had fallen from her ship's crash zone. This fruit is preserved in syrup? She asked, turning the can over. Liquid sugar, he said. Humanity's favorite addiction before annihilation. She studied the label. Ingredients: peaches, water, glucose, love of bad decisions. That last one's implied. He cracked the can open with a piece of rebar and offered her the first bite. She hesitated, then tried a slice. Her expression shifted through 3 stages. surprise, curiosity, and finally delight. It's absurdly sweet. Yeah, he said. Tastes like regret and nostalgia. Pairs well with post-apocalypse. Lyra smiled, faintly sticky with syrup. You risked extinction for this flavor? Among other things. Later, they made their way toward the wreck of her ship, a sleek, half-buried crescent of metal jutting from the sand like a broken smile. The stabilizer pulsed weakly inside, alive but fragile. Lyra ran her palm along the hull. She still breathes. You name your ship? Of course. Don't you name what you love? He smirked. I tried. Most of them left me. She shot him a sideways glance. Perhaps they lacked durability. Or maybe I talked too much. That I can confirm. They shared a laugh that didn't sound forced this time. Inside, the ship was dim but functional. Holographic panels flickered to life under Lyra's touch, painting her skin with light. Taryn stood beside her, pretending not to stare at the way her glow synchronized with the ship's heartbeat. You're staring, she said, not looking up. I'm appreciating alien engineering. Your pupils dilate when you appreciate. Sharp observation. I'll add that to your report. Perhaps I'll omit it. Why? Professionalism. Tragic, he said. That's my least favorite ism. Her shoulders trembled, a small laugh she tried to hide. They worked through the day, repairing conduits, realigning panels. Taryn fetched tools and cracked jokes while Lyra translated her technology into metaphors he could grasp. So this core interface, he said, holding up a shimmering rod, is like a heart pacemaker, closer to a neural translator. Ah, so it tells your ship to stop panicking. Exactly. Wish I had one of those for my brain. You do, she said, tapping his temple gently. You call it humor, he blinked. Was that a compliment? Do not get used to it. When night fell, they sat outside the ship, watching lightning crawl across distant clouds. The air smelled of rain for the first time in years. Taryn leaned back on his elbows. You ever wonder why you crashed here? Out of every dead rock in the system, you picked ours. Lyra was quiet for a moment. Statistically, coincidence. Spiritually, maybe something else. Spiritually? Didn't know your kind believed in that. We believe in connections, patterns that defy math. He looked at her, half smiling. Guess that's us then. A bad math problem, yet somehow solvable. That's dangerously optimistic of you. She glanced sideways. I've been learning from the worst. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of wet dust. A faint drizzle began to fall, hesitant, unfamiliar. Taryn stood, raising his arms. Rain, he said. Real rain? Lyra watched him, head tilted. You look joyful. It's been a while, he turned to her. Come on, try it. It's free. She stepped into the drizzle, water beating on her luminous skin, refracting light like tiny stars. Taryn grinned. Careful. You're outshining the weather. She blinked as drops slid down her cheek. It feels alive. Welcome to Earth's way of apologizing. For what? For everything. They walked through the rain until the ground softened to mud and laughter came easily. Taryn slipped once, catching himself against her arm. Graceful, she teased. I'm testing gravity's loyalty. Still loyal? It seems. Yeah, it keeps pulling me toward trouble. Define trouble. He met her eyes. Tall, blue, slightly sarcastic, standing very close. She didn't move away. Your definition is specific. I'm a man of focus. Her glow brightened slightly. Embarrassment, he guessed, or maybe curiosity. You are impossible. And yet here you are. By midnight, the rain stopped. They sat by the flickering wreck, steam rising from the warm metal. Lyra turned a small crystal over in her fingers. With this repaired, I could leave tomorrow. Taryn's smile faded. Tomorrow? That soon? You have a planet to rebuild. I have a report to file. He stared at the ground. Reports don't sound half as fun as sarcastic apocalypse tours. She looked at him quietly, then said, You would come with me? He laughed softly. You kidding? The last time humans left Earth, we barely managed orbit. I'm not exactly interstellar material. Your humor would terrify my superiors. Then I'd fit right in. The silence stretched, heavy but not unpleasant. Lyra spoke first. If I left, what would you do? Same thing I always do. Wander, complain, accidentally survive. And if I stayed? He met her gaze. Then maybe we both try something humanity never mastered. What's that? Sticking around. The words hung between them, fragile as the world itself. A low rumble interrupted them. Not an earthquake this time, but the faint roar of engines above the clouds. Lyra's eyes widened. My recall beacon. They found me. Terrence stood slowly. So that's it, huh? End of the field trip. She hesitated. Protocol demands I return. Yeah, he said. Protocols are great. They stop us from doing stupid, meaningful things. Her voice was barely a whisper. Would you have come with me, truly? He smiled, a tired, honest smile. Quick, before I lose it? Yeah, probably. She stepped closer. The ground trembled lightly, the ship's systems waking. Then perhaps, don't lose it. For a heartbeat, the stormlight caught them both, human and alien, two misplaced survivors in love with what shouldn't exist. And above them, the ship's shadow grew, descending through the broken clouds. The ground trembled again, deeper this time, like the planet itself had just rolled its eyes. The lab's broken panels flickered, throwing fractured light across Cale and Lyra's faces. They stood close. Too close for someone trying to end a world. Or save one, quick, Lyra whispered, her voice shaky but determined. Before I lose it, Cale tilted his head. Lose what, the data? Or your composure? Lyra smirked. Both, apparently. The reactor core glowed behind her like an angry sun trapped in glass. If she couldn't stabilize it in the next 2 minutes, the last habitable zone on Earth would turn into a memory, and Cale's sarcastic commentary would be the last human sound in the galaxy. Move! Lyra snapped, pulling a set of cracked interface rods from her belt. Cale didn't move. You sure you know what you're doing? You barely passed interspecies physics. I aced quantum coupling, she shot back. It's your emotional coupling that's the problem. Excuse me for being emotionally unavailable during an extinction event, Kyle said, leaning against the console with mock nonchalance. It's how I cope. The core pulsed again, a violent heartbeat of molten light. Lyra slammed her palm on the control pad, sparks showering her face. You think this is funny? I think you're beautiful when you're about to kill us both. Not helping? Neither's gravity right now, Cale muttered as the floor buckled slightly under their boots. Then, silence. A hum. The core light stabilized for half a breath. Lyra blinked. Did I just... Cale's eyes widened. You did it. They stared at each other. Then the console exploded in a spray of harmless static. Nope, Cale said grimly. You didn't. Shut up and hand me the plasma key. Which one? The one that looks like it could save humanity. Cale fumbled through his pack. They all look like toothbrushes. Lyra snatched one from his hand, jammed it into the socket, and twisted hard. The hum rose to a scream. The air shimmered, and for a heartbeat it felt like the planet exhaled. Then, everything stopped. Light faded. Gravity steadied. The core's angry glow softened into a calm, rhythmic pulse. Cale let out a shaky laugh. You did it. You actually... Before he could finish, Lyra's knees buckled. Cale caught her, his arms instinctively wrapping around her. You always were dramatic, he said softly. She smiled weakly. You love it. I tolerate it. You worship it. Kyle chuckled. Maybe a little. They stood there, surrounded by the quiet hum of survival. Outside the lab's shattered window, the horizon flickered with dawn. For the first time in decades, sunlight broke through the red haze that had choked the skies. Lyra leaned into him. So, now what? Now, Cale said, we find coffee. And a new planet, preferably one that doesn't try to self-destruct every other Tuesday. Lyra laughed, tired and relieved. You're impossible. And you're predictable. Predictably amazing. Predictably terrifying, he corrected, brushing dust from her cheek. Remind me to never argue with someone who can restart a planetary core. Oh, I'll remind you, she said, her eyes glinting mischievously. Every day, loudly, Cale groaned. There's that emotional coupling again. Lyra winked. You'll survive. Hours later, as they walked through the ruins of what used to be the city of Eos Prime, Kale found himself actually hopeful. Maybe it was the light wind carrying the smell of ozone instead of ash. Maybe it was the faint hum of life under the cracked soil. Maybe it was Lyra humming an old Earth tune she'd never heard before, something she must have picked up from his playlist. Probably when she'd hacked his comm to optimize morale. Or maybe it was just the way she looked at him, like the world had ended, and she still chose to smile anyway. You're thinking too loudly, Lyra teased. Sorry, Kale said. It's been a while since I thought about the future. She arched an eyebrow. And what does your future look like, Captain Overthink? He grinned. Less doom. More dancing, Lyra snorted. Dancing? You can barely walk straight. I was emotionally destabilized by near death and cosmic beauty, Kale said. It's a medical condition. Oh, yeah? Got a name? It's called Lyra-itis. Sounds fatal. Only if untreated. She laughed, then shoved his shoulder gently. The kind of shove that meant I like you in every language. Fine, she said, but only if you promise to stop making jokes while I'm saving your life. No promises. They kept walking. 2 survivors, half flirting, half arguing, entirely alive. Behind them, the lab collapsed in a graceful implosion, sealing itself under a field of new growth, bioluminescent vines already weaving across the rubble. Life, in all its stubborn comedy, was coming back. Lyra stopped, turning to watch the light spread. You know, she said softly, for all your chaos, you humans have one thing right. Kale raised a brow. What's that? You never stop trying. Even when it's stupid. Kyle smiled. Especially when it's stupid. They watched the first green shoots break through the cracked concrete. The ground shimmered again. Not violently, but gently, like the planet was laughing too. Later that night, they camped under what used to be a collapsed solar array. The sky, once blood-red, was finally clear enough to show a few defiant stars. Lyra rested her head on Kale's shoulder, eyes half closed. You really think Earth can heal? Kale looked up at the stars, the same ones that had mocked him for years. If you can, it can, she chuckled softly. Flattery. Primitive human defense mechanism. Effective, though. Barely. Kyle reached into his jacket, pulling out a battered holochip. It flickered to life, showing a recording. His crew, long gone, laughing around a campfire. Lyra watched silently, her usual sarcasm fading. You miss them, she said. Yeah, he admitted. But if they could see this, see you, they'd probably still mock me for dating the alien who tried to blow up the planet. She smiled faintly. In my defense, you started it. Details. She yawned, curling closer. You talk too much. And yet, Kale said, resting his chin lightly on her hair, you never tell me to stop. Because it's entertaining. Admit it, he teased. You like me, she pretended to think. Tolerate? Appreciate? Endure, Kale grinned. I'll take it. Morning came with the sound of wind across glass and the soft rhythm of waves hitting distant ruins. Lyra woke first, stretching lazily. Kale was already awake, staring at a flickering beacon in the distance. What is it? She asked. Signal, he said. Could be survivors. Or scavengers. Or someone trying to sell us religion. Lyra smiled. Then we better hurry before they ruin our morning. He looked at her. The alien scientist who'd once been his rival, then his unlikely ally, then. Something else. Quick, he said with a grin. Before I lose it. Lose what? She asked, amused. He stepped closer. Just enough that the ground seemed to shudder again. This feeling. Lyra blinked, then smiled. Finally something worth not losing. And with that, they walked toward the light, arguing about who would do the talking when they got there. Because even at the end of the world, some things never change. If you enjoyed quick, before I lose it, share the laughter, humanity's last surviving resource. Every apocalypse deserves a good punchline.